It's been a long time since we saw a mid-season update in Apex change up the legend meta. In the Shadow Society update, several legends were changed, so in this video I want to discuss some of the changes, talk about who got better, who got worse, and which legends will benefit from these changes as a whole. Now, I'm not doing a completely new tier list where I discuss every single legend because, well, that's a much lengthier video, and some of the legends are just the same old. Regardless, let's get right into it. The first legend I want to talk about is Ballistic. Now, Ballistic did receive some changes, particularly to his upgrades, and they removed Ammu Vision, and this was his level 2 upgrade that allowed for him to see what ammo was in what death box. A rather useless perk. Now, they replaced it with Lasting Bullet, and this is where his tactical will last 3 times as long. But this, to be clear, only applies in the world, meaning if you shoot the Whistler at the ground, that orb will last 3 times as long. It doesn't apply if you connect to an enemy with the smart pistol. It's not like the overheat will last 3 times as long on the enemy. So most players will probably take this upgrade on his level 2 because the one competing with it is still the care package reveal. And as we know, this isn't really that good because, well, every skirmisher inherently already has this ability. Now, what they did do with his level 3 upgrade is they added a new one called Speedy Whistler. And this is where a successful hit with his tactical gives Ballistic a 2-second burst of speed. Very similar to Fuse's level 3 upgrade where he gets a speed boost off a successful hit with a knuckle cluster. Now, this isn't as good as it may sound in my opinion because I will still take his other level 3 upgrade which allows for 2 tactical charges because I just think having 2 of the tacticals is better than a quick speed boost after you connect on one of them. Now, it's clear that Ballistic is still rather weak, but these upgrades do help him a little bit. They also adjusted a couple bugs with him, and one in particular is that lock-ons should be more reliable in close range, and this is referring to his tactical, obviously. And I think this will help him, especially in those moments where you shoot the Whistler at an enemy, it says it was locked on, and for some reason it just doesn't hit them. Like, that has definitely happened to me while playing as Ballistic, and I'm like, what's going on here? So when I ranked Ballistic at the beginning of the season, I had him in the very bottom of C tier. Now there's an argument to be made he's like at the bottom of B tier instead, or at the higher end of C tier. He's better, but still not very good. Don't get me wrong, he can still have his moments, and he is pretty fun to play, but overall, these changes don't make him meta by any means. Now, the next legend I want to talk about is Caustic, and Caustic received some pretty significant changes. Gas damage will now increase by 1 each tick. It previously went 5, 5, 6, 6, etc., etc. So for now, each tick, the gas damage will scale much faster, which will knock enemies even quicker. However, a couple other changes are that down players still only receive 5 damage per tick, and the gas slowing effect now only applies on the first damage tick for 2 seconds. So this means that players are probably going to be more incentivized to move through Caustic Gas at times because they're not going to be slowed and their movement won't be hindered. However, they're going to have to evaluate the trade-off of how long are they going to be in the gas for if they decide to get through it or stay in it because the damage is now enhanced. Overall, with just these changes, Caustic is better, but only slightly. Then they changed around his upgrades. Particle Diffuser has been moved to level 3. Now, Particle Diffuser was the increase in his gas damage ultimate size. It increased by 50%. So now you're always going to take that level 3 upgrade because the power in late game is even more enhanced for Caustic. And they swapped that with Residual Toxins and moved that to level 2. Residual Toxins gives Caustic better Nox gas vision, so enemies will be highlighted a little bit more or for a longer period of time in Caustic Gas. And you're going to have to decide if you want that or to throw his traps 75% further. Personally, for me, I go with throwing the traps further, but Residual Toxins is still good. Now, Caustic definitely got better, as I said, but only slightly, so I would still leave him in A tier. A couple small changes to Fuse and Octane are that the Reckless perk, which was explosive damage is reduced by 25%, got increased by another 25%, totaling a reduction of 50%. Now, on Fuse, this is his level 3 upgrade, and on Octane, it's his level 2 upgrade. This is a step in the right direction. I think this makes this perk a little bit more enticing to choose, but keep in mind, things like Arcstar sticks, thermites, these things do not apply to the quote-unquote explosive damage. So that is something that you should factor in when it comes to choosing these upgrades. Pathfinder also received an upgrade to Zipline Zen, which is his level 3 upgrade, and the damage reduction is now increased to 50%. It previously was 25. This means that when you take this charged zipline, you'll take 50% less damage while riding the zip. I think this is not a great perk altogether, so the upgrade from 25% to 50% doesn't really seem like that big of a deal to me. I don't really see the appeal as a whole to this upgrade. The zipline is already super fast, and unless someone's riding straight at you on just a blatant horizontal zip, it doesn't seem like someone's just going to get shredded while riding a zip line. So to me, sort of a meaningless change. Now let's talk about some of the bigger changes. Revenant. All right, so Revenant in his ultimate, Nox no longer refreshed to tactical. The tactical cooldown is no longer shorter during the ultimate. And also his ultimate cooldown is now increased by 60 seconds. This is a very needed change. Revenant was on such a short cooldown for his ultimate, and if you've been playing any Apex at all, then you know going up against this Revenant ultimate has been ridiculous at times. And for his upgrades, they removed Agile Assassin, which decreased the charge up time for his tactical by 20%. I think some people did some math on this and it was like completely negligible in the actual time that it shortened, so they just flat out removed this. The tactical cooldown he had is now moved to level 3. It previously was level 2, and what they added at the level 2 in exchange was an ultimate cooldown reduction by 30 seconds. So it's a little silly that they increased the ultimate by 60 seconds but then give his level 2 upgrade an ultimate reduction by 30 seconds. I would have liked to see them come up with something different here, or if they're gonna go that route, they should have increased the ultimate cooldown as a whole by 90 seconds so that regardless, even if Revenant takes the upgrade, there's still an extra minute on his ultimate. But you know, that's just my opinion and they don't really ask me for my opinion. I just give it to all of you. So yeah, regardless, Revenant is still a really strong legend. This does take him down a notch, but not as much as you would think. He's still going to be played a lot and he's still going to be a beast, particularly in combat situations. You're just going to have to be a little bit more strategic with the use of his tactical and the timing of his ultimate, but not by a whole lot. All right, the next legend that got significantly changed is Lifeline, and they changed around some of her upgrades. On her level 2 upgrade, they basically improved the tactical cooldown upgrade. It previously was, I think, 10 seconds, and now it's going to be reduced by 25 seconds. This makes the cooldown time equal to the deployment duration, so you will always have the dock healing drone if you want it. This has proven to be really handy in a ton of different scenarios. And on her level 3 upgrade, they did remove Gift Wrapped, which was the care package that gave you a game drop care package. They're replacing it with the new gold plated care package, which will spawn an Evo cache, a gold knockdown, and a gold backpack, as well as 1 shield battery, 1 med kit, and either a Phoenix kit or a mobile respawn beacon, and at least 1 smart loot attachment or you or your teammates loadout. Now you may not be getting something as impactful as something like a Wingman or a Kraber now, but you are getting a ton of different loot here, one of which is going to get either you or your teammates to red armor from the Evo cache, and then having the gold knockdown and the gold backpack, as well as some additional healing items, is really, really clutch. So I think Lifeline is definitely up into A tier with these changes, and I think you're going to see a lot more of her going forward for the rest of the season. Now, at the beginning of the season, when there were a ton of Seers running around because of the breakout challenges, I said he was A tier, and a lot of people disagreed. Well, Seer received a buff, and we got to talk about it. They decreased the activation delay to 1.2 seconds for the focus of attention. That's his tactical. It previously was 1.4, so this is a very small change, but it's a buff to his tactical nonetheless. And then they changed around some of his upgrades. So Artist Reach has been moved to level 2. That is where Seer gets an increase of the throw range of his ultimate by 20 meters. This isn't a great upgrade, but what they did in exchange is they removed the other level 2 upgrade called Racing Hearts and integrated it into his base tactical. Now, Racing Heart gave Seer a faster movement while using his passive. So now this is just part of Seer's kit naturally. Now, this is obviously a buff here, and they're adding in a new ultimate cooldown to his level 2 upgrade, which reduces his ult by 30 seconds. I think most players are going to go with that, which means that Seer is just going to have his ultimate way more often throughout the match now. Now, on his level 3 upgrade, since they put Artist Reach into level 2, they're adding Long View into level 3, and this increases his passive and tactical range to 75 meters. Now, this is what Seer was on release. He had a 75 meter range on his passive and tactical. So this is a really strong upgrade update for Seer, and altogether, he just got much better in this update. So I gotta leave Seer in A tier, and I think we're gonna see a lot more of him going forward because it's gonna take some players some time to figure out that he just got much better and he's way more viable now. Now we did see a Conduit nerf, particularly to her tactical. They're increasing the cooldown once again to 31 seconds. This is an increase of 5 seconds because it previously was 26, and this was a change they made at the beginning of the season. So they clearly are seeing a little too much power from Conduit still. And then they added a regen interruption delay increase to 2 seconds. This previously was 1 second. This means that if you're regenning off of her tactical, you take some damage. There's a brief delay now that is going to be 2 seconds as opposed to 1 second before it starts regenerating those shields once again. Another healthy change in my opinion. Now, a couple other small changes before I get into probably the biggest change from this update is they moved around Wraith's upgrades. Now they're making her tactical cooldown move to her level 3 upgrade, and they're putting her ultimate cooldown to her level 2 upgrade. So going forward, I think most players will take the ultimate cooldown at her level 2, which reduces her ultimate by 60 seconds. This means that there are just going to be so many more Wraith portals going on, and I think it's a good change for her. And then on Bloodhound, they have changed around their upgrades as well. Odin's Glare has been moved to level 2, and the tactical cooldown has been moved to level 3. If you're unfamiliar with Odin's Glare, it's double the duration of the tactical's full body highlight. So you can choose between that or Raven's Blessing, where the White Ravens will charge their ultimate by 25%. This is a slight nerf in my opinion, but it's not a huge deal, and Bloodhound will still remain probably A tier, maybe even S tier, depending on where you value their kit overall. Okay, now we're getting into the biggest change. As I mentioned, Bangalore got nerfed heavily. First thing is they're increasing her ultimate to 4.5 minutes. It previously was 4 minutes. Regarding the smoke launcher, cooldown has been increased to 35 seconds. It previously was 33 seconds. Smokes will no longer deal damage. The smoke duration has been decreased to 11 seconds. It previously was 18. This is probably the biggest deal. 7 seconds have been removed off of the smoke duration, and the smoke particles are now going to dissipate faster. They didn't give official numbers on this. On the level 2 upgrades, they did give her a slight buff because they removed Big Bang, which allowed to see the useless grenades through walls. And they added a tactical cooldown, which reduces her tactical by 5 seconds. So you can choose between that or a reduction of her ultimate cooldown by 60 seconds. And on her level 3 upgrade, the Cover Me auto ping no longer tracks the player who triggered the double time. It will still ping them, but it's not going to actively track them. And then on the Refuge, which slowly heals up her health while she's in smoke, has been increased to 3.5 HP per second. It previously was 3 HP per second. So this is a slight buff to it, but keep in mind the smoke duration has been decreased. So yes, you'll heal a little bit faster, but the smoke won't be around for as long to heal up in. I still think Bangalore is good, but this does take her down a notch. I'm putting her in B tier. You're going to have to be really tactical with her abilities, and that's a good thing. However, I do think that some of these changes are a little unnecessary, and I do think that a couple other legends probably were more justified in getting nerfed as opposed to Bangalore, but that's just my 2 cents. And if you want to learn more about landing, looting, and inventory management, well, I covered it in this video here. Be sure to check it out next. Thanks for watching. Peace.